Hello, 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 Ronnie Landis here, and I just had a thought as I'm running along the lava fields here, and the thought was surrounding this concept of fear and how fear attaches itself in our lives, and this notion that we should be fearless. In fact, right here, where is it? Right here it says fearless, right? It's a tiger stalking its prey. I got that tattoo and I was heavy into basketball training. I was like 20 or 21. Something like that, and that became kind of a mantra for me. You know, growing up, my favorite athletes were generally the smallest athletes and the most tenacious. Like Allen Iverson was my favorite basketball player of all time, and I just loved his, obviously he's one of the most gifted athletes on the planet, but more than that, his fearlessness, his relentlessness always inspired me. Bruce Lee was like that. Manny Pacquiao in the boxing world is like that for me. And I always took that on, that I need to be fearless about what I do. And as I was running along these lava fields, hopping from, here you guys can see this, hopping from rock to rock, literally just going across it at whatever speeds I may be going, just trying to stay in that flow. And I was a little more nervous today. I'm a little more apprehensive. I'm a little more just kind of not trying to run through the fields as quickly. I'm taking my time and I'm paying more attention to my footing. And so there was a little bit of fear inside of me, not like paralyzing fear, nothing that's going to stop me, but little notions of caution alerting in my mind and my psyche. And you know, the idea that is coming to me is this idea that there's fear in everything. There's fear and love, two polarities existing in the same space, really, the duality, the light and dark, whatever, the dark and the light side. It's a duality that we live with, and what happens is a lot of people, they become paralyzed by their fear. They let their fear cripple them and really can cause a psychosclerotic stranglehold on their brain, essentially on their neuromuscular system, and start to cripple their physicality, all from the fear that they let seep into their mind. But then there's this other notion that I was more along the lines of, is this idea that there is no fear. Just be fearless. Don't look at the cautionary signs, the signposts. Just go through it. Just do what you're going to do. And I like that idea, and I've lived that idea for a long time, so I have experiential wisdom from my experience of the pros and cons of that idea. And you know, what's coming to me here is that we're going to have fear no matter what we do. There's always going to be fear. You can't avoid it. You can trick yourself. You can camouflage it. You can transmute that fear into more viable energy packets for you to be to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. But there's always going to be fear, and you have to deal with the fear. Some days are going to be easier than others. Some days you're not going to be able to get out of bed as quickly as you know, as enthusiastically as, you know, the day before. You know, sometimes we get knocked off our flow train and we have to learn how to pick ourselves back up. Sometimes we have to take a step back to reevaluate the context in which we're operating our lives. But ultimately, there's always going to be fear. So don't let the fear be something that cripples you, that handicaps you, that keeps you in a state of stasis, that doesn't allow you to move forward and progress in your life. But at the same time, there is wisdom in being cautious at times, to look at what's in front of you and to evaluate the speed in which you want to progress forward, right? Some days you're going to be a little more cautious and take your time, and it's more advantageous, it's more effective to do that. But at other times, you got to go forward, you got to move, you got to plow through the field, you got to just full on go for it. And it's this rhythmic flow, this rhythmic balance of duality to find ourselves in the homeostasis of life. And that's like diet, right? Diet is like that. A lot of times we try to swing from one end to the other, and we get really lost on all the diet controversies, the polarization of diets, the sensationalism, the marketing strategies that a lot of people out there on YouTube especially use to polarize one sector of the flag banner raising folks. That could be vegans, that could be raw foodists, that could be Paleolithic side of the diet equation. And it doesn't really matter what title you give it, because we're all humans and we all have this innate propensity in civilization, in civil state organizations, to pick sides, to raise a banner that we're most comfortable with, that we feel most secure with, that the most amount of people actually agree with us or we agree with them, and therefore we feel secure in that decision. And the fact of the matter is that there's duality in everything. There's pros and cons, there's good and bad, and every day your diet's changing. Some days you're gonna be more on the raw food side. Hopefully, that's my hope for people, is that most days you find yourself eating a dominant amount of raw plant food, organic food, fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, superfoods, herbs, whatever, spring water, whatever that is for you. That I hope would be the most dominant assortment of foods in one's diet primarily. But then there's going to be days where you might, you might curve, you might go somewhere else with it, you might change directions, you might experiment. It's almost ridiculous how the diet world has become so polarized and divisioned out into kind of like a warlike ape kind of community. It's interesting, but to me, it's really having your values in check, having your ethical alignment in check, and just knowing that you are a transforming being. The point of the diet equation is that you can transform yourself via the substances that you put into your mouth that are essentially building the construction or are the construction material for your physical frame. Right, for your mental computer, for the conduit that you are transmitting higher elevated thought forms and frequencies. That's really what it's about. And then let that guide you where it's going to guide you based on your functionality, based on your desired purpose or performance in life. It's all individual. But anyways, so back to this fear thing, you got to go through it. You got to and once you go through it enough times, you kind of realize that you don't need to continue to enforce or exert a huge amount of energy to dissipate fear, because you realize that fear is actually your ally within a given context. If you can use it as a partner, as an ally, you become more powerful than the man who's always breaking through walls all the time. That was me. I know how that is. And eventually you wear out, you get tired, you get resentful, you get frustrated at that kind of approach, and then you go back into your inner faculties. One of the interesting ideas that I think about sometimes is how people complain about not having enough resources to do what they want to do. But the reality is you have to channel your inner resources, be inner resourceful, right? And then your faculties will turn on, higher states of consciousness will turn on, and you will automatically find the hidden triggers that will turn on the resource activity or the access to resources that you're looking for. That's been my experience. That's not theory. I'm going through that right now. In fact, it's a potential part of my reality to reactivate parts of my inner resourcefulness so I can turn that into some form of materialization, so I can materialize that, I can concretize that in real world. And it's only happened to me the more I let go of this notion of fear, again, crippling me. But again, sometimes being cautious, just looking at what's ahead of you, the 200 feet in front of you, because at any given time on our journey, we're only seeing about 200 feet in front of us at any given time. We'll never see the whole picture. But while you're doing that, you got to evaluate, you got to look and see the canvas in order to take the next appropriate move, instead of just throwing things on the wall and hoping something sticks, right? Darts in the darkness. It's being more effective. This is peak performance. It's being, it's just being a more effective, creative, innovative human being on this planet, so we can create more miracles. We can turn more ills into magnificent works of art, right? We can be the true alchemists of our lives and of the world, of this new generation that's emerging. But it has to do with letting go of fear, letting go of the notion of fear holding you back. And then once you get to another level, you transmute that fear into whatever you want, into magnificence, into beauty, into extraordinary, innovative, unbeknownst to the world at this point, works of art. You have that capability, and there's a lot of ways to help bring that out, but this video is going on and on. I could obviously talk forever, so I'm gonna let it go here, let go of the fear, and then, transmute that fear. Peace.